Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. The strange how the biggest moments in life don't come with thunder. No warning, no screaming, no glass shattering. Just a stupid towel, half folded, slipping from my hands onto the floor. I stared at it for a long time, longer than I'd like to admit, because folding laundry was something I did for her. Not because she asked. Because I thought it meant something. Thought it mattered. She was in the other room, on a call. I could hear her laughter through the thin drywall. Sharp, effortless, unfiltered. A kind of laughter I hadn't heard in months. And certainly not with me. I didn't ask questions anymore. I used to, but every answer came with a look. That exhausted, theatrical blink. The sigh that said, "Here we go again, Emery." So I stopped asking. I just did the laundry. But that day, something shifted. I picked up her phone, not to snoop. It buzzed while she was in the shower. The screen lit up with a name I didn't recognize. Marcos. I didn't open anything. I didn't need to. The message preview said everything. Last night was worth every risk. You're magic. She came out of the shower humming, wrapped in the same towel I had just washed. She saw me standing there, phone in hand, face pale. And you know what she said? Not "I can explain." Not "It's not what it looks like." She looked me dead in the eye and said, "It's my body, Emery. My choice." No panic. No apology. Just that. Like we were debating something theoretical in a college class. Like I wasn't standing there, unraveling. Like our marriage was an optional side quest she'd grown bored of. I nodded. Not because I agreed, but because I finally understood. She wasn't confused. She wasn't lost. She was exactly where she wanted to be, and I was in the way. So I folded the towel. Gently, quietly, I placed it on the edge of the bed. I didn't scream. I didn't throw her phone or demand explanations. I simply walked out, not just from the room, from her life. And she didn't follow. When I closed the door behind me, I didn't slam it. I didn't even lock it. I just walked out with my wallet, keys, and the hoodie she always said made me look like a high schooler. I didn't take clothes. I didn't take my laptop. I left everything because it felt like everything had already left me. The hallway outside our apartment felt colder than usual, like even the walls knew something final had just happened. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a destination. I walked until my legs started to ache, then sat on a park bench near the 7-Eleven we used to visit for midnight slushies. I stared at the streetlights and tried to remember the last time I actually felt married. Not performed marriage, but felt it. The sad part is I couldn't. My phone stayed silent for 6 hours. No texts. No missed calls. No, "Where are you?" Not even a fake concern. That told me more than any argument ever could. She wasn't worried. She wasn't curious. She wasn't mine anymore, and maybe hadn't been for a long time. She always prided herself on being emotionally sovereign, whatever that meant. I used to admire it, thought it meant she was strong, independent, whole. But now it just felt like she had slowly removed me from every part of her life without ever saying the words. I booked a cheap motel with flickering lights and a floral comforter that smelled like bleach and old smoke. I laid there on top of the covers, fully dressed, and stared at the ceiling. I kept thinking about that message from Marcos. "You're magic." I wondered if she laughed with him the way she used to laugh with me. If she ever told him about the birthmark behind her right knee or how she hates the sound of styrofoam rubbing together. I wondered if he knew she sleeps with one sock on and always keeps her left hand under the pillow. And then I hated myself for wondering. That night I didn't sleep. I scrolled through old photos on my phone, watching smiles fade backward through time. Us at Niagara Falls. Us with her sister's baby. Us on that weird paddle boat in Maine where she dropped her sunglasses into the lake. There were hundreds of moments, tiny, quiet, stupid little moments, where I thought we were building something solid. But they weren't bricks in a foundation. They were just snapshots. At 5:42 a.m., I finally got a text from her. Not a paragraph. Not a plea. Just one line. "Let me know when you're ready to talk like adults." I stared at that sentence for a full minute, then turned my phone off and dropped it into the motel drawer. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even heartbroken anymore. I was just done being the only adult in the room. She made her choice. Now I was finally making mine. I woke up that morning with the kind of clarity that doesn't come often. It wasn't peaceful. It was hollow, like standing inside a house that had already burned down. The smoke gone, the ashes cold, and nothing left worth saving. I took a shower in that motel bathroom with a half-broken faucet and no hot water, and I looked at myself in the cracked mirror for the first time in what felt like months. Not glanced, looked. I looked tired, not just in my face, but in the way my shoulders hung like they were permanently bracing for impact. I checked my phone. Another message. Are you done sulking? That was it. No good morning, no come home. Just that, like my absence was a childish tantrum she had to tolerate. I didn't respond. Instead, I sat on the edge of the bed and did something I'd never done before. I opened a blank note and started listing every moment over the last year that made me feel small. Not out of spite, out of proof. Proof for myself that this wasn't spontaneous. That the cracks were always there. I listed the time she mocked me in front of her friends for bringing her flowers on a random Tuesday. The time she laughed when I cried watching a movie and said, "God, you're so sensitive." The time she said, "You're lucky I put up with you," when I forgot to pick up oat milk. The way she'd flinch when I touched her shoulder, like affection was something she had to ration. I stopped writing at 36 entries. Not because I ran out, because I didn't want to hate her. Around noon, I went back to the apartment. Not to confront her, to pack. I didn't tell her I was coming. I didn't ask for permission. I walked in, and there she was, sitting on the couch in a sports bra and leggings, scrolling through her phone like it was any other Sunday. When she saw me, she didn't jump up. She didn't say she missed me. She just muttered, "Well, look who decided to stop being dramatic." I didn't speak. I went straight to the bedroom and pulled out my suitcase. For the first time ever, I moved with intention. Every shirt folded, every drawer emptied. She followed me eventually, leaned on the doorframe with her arms crossed. "You're really doing this?" she asked. I didn't answer. I think that rattled her more than if I had screamed. Silence can be brutal when someone's used to winning arguments. When I zipped the suitcase, she said, "You're overreacting. We just need space." I looked at her, really looked, and finally replied, "You've had space this whole time. I'm just taking mine with me now." And just like that, I walked out again. But this time, something was different. She followed me to the hallway, and as the elevator doors closed, I saw it, panic. Not sadness, not regret, panic. That's when I realized she wasn't afraid of losing me. She was afraid of losing the version of me who never left. 2 days passed. I didn't call her. I didn't answer her texts. I didn't check her social media even though I wanted to. I stayed in that same bland motel room, eating gas station snacks and listening to the hum of the AC unit that never quite worked. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't empowering. It was just quiet. And in that silence, I started to hear things more clearly than I had in years. My own thoughts, my own voice. It was strange how unfamiliar it felt. Like I'd been lip-syncing my way through life without realizing it. On the third morning, just as I was considering booking a longer stay somewhere farther away, she called. I didn't answer. A minute later, she called again. Still didn't answer. Then came a voicemail. Her voice, low and uncertain, filled the room through the speaker. "Emery, I don't know what game you're playing, but this isn't funny anymore. Call me back." A game. That's what she thought this was. I deleted the voicemail and went to get coffee. When I came back, she had sent 6 texts in a row. The first was cold. "Are you punishing me?" The second was defensive. "I told you the truth. It's my body. I'm allowed to make choices." Then guilt-trippy. "You knew who I was when you married me." Then something like vulnerability. "I don't even know what you want from me anymore." And finally, the one that made me pause, "Are you coming home?" I didn't reply. Instead, I packed my things and checked out. I couldn't stay stuck between worlds anymore. I needed to move forward, sideways, anywhere that wasn't in that gray zone of waiting. I went to my friend Jonah's place, someone I hadn't really seen since before the wedding. He offered me his guest room without hesitation. No questions, no judgments. Just a cold beer, a nod, and a "you good?" I wasn't, but I nodded anyway. That night, I got drunker than I should have. I wasn't a drinker before, mostly because she hated the smell. But that night, I welcomed the numbness. Around midnight, my phone buzzed again. Another call from her. I watched it ring out. Then a second one. Then a third. Jonah looked over from the couch and asked if I needed to step outside. I shook my head and turned the phone off. The next morning, I turned it back on, and everything changed. I had 17 missed calls and a message from an unknown number. It was a photo. Her, crying, sitting on our bed. My side of the closet wide open and empty. And then the message, "I didn't think you'd actually go." I sat with that sentence for a long time. She hadn't said, "Come back." She hadn't said, "I'm sorry." All she said was she didn't think I'd go. That was all I ever was to her. Dependable, predictable, safe. Someone to vent to, walk over, dismiss, but never fear losing. Until now. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just about the cheating or the indifference or the arrogance. It was about how easy it had been for her to believe I'd always be there, no matter how far she pushed me. That I would fold, like I always had. But I hadn't. Not this time. And I could tell by her silence that night, she finally understood the difference. It took her 4 days to shift from silence to full-on panic. I hadn't responded to her texts, hadn't returned her calls, and for the first time in years, she no longer had access to my predictable reactions. That's when the manipulation started. It always starts small, almost innocent, just enough to make you question yourself. I was at Jonah's kitchen table, trying to eat the toast he made me, when I got the first message from a mutual friend. It read, "Hey, I heard you left? Lacey said you needed space, but that she's worried. You okay?" That phrasing. Lacey said you needed space. Not she cheated. Not she said something cruel and dismissive when you confronted her. No, she was already rewriting the story, reframing the narrative, making herself the concerned, patient wife, and me, I was the emotionally unstable husband who ran off into the night. I didn't reply to the friend, just put my phone face down on the table. Jonah noticed. "She twisting it already?" he asked without looking up from his coffee. I nodded. "Yeah," I muttered. "She's fast." That night it got worse. I got a message from my mom, then my sister, then Lacey's cousin, all asking the same question in different words. "Why won't you talk to her?" That's when I realized she'd reached out to everyone close to me, spinning the story like I was some fragile little man who couldn't handle real life. I sat in Jonah's living room, listening to her version of me echoing in my head, weak, sensitive, dramatic. But what really broke me wasn't the lies. It was how believable they were. Because for years, I'd let her define me. I'd let her mock my softness, diminish my kindness, chip away at my confidence in the name of tough love. So when she painted me as unstable, no one questioned it. They already had the blueprint. The final straw came the next day when I checked our joint email, the one we used for bills and travel confirmations. There was a password reset request for our savings account. My heart dropped. I logged in and saw that she had moved half of our shared savings into a new account under her name. No message, no heads up, just a silent withdrawal, the financial kind this time. I sat there for a full hour, staring at the screen, trying to decide if I should be furious or just numb. I chose numb. I closed the laptop, walked to the guest room, and started packing my bag. Jonah came in and saw what I was doing. "You leaving?" he asked. "Yeah," I said quietly. "Not going back. Just leaving." He didn't stop me. He just handed me a set of car keys. "Take mine for the week. Get out of town. You need space, real space." So I drove. No destination in mind. Just west. The highway stretched out in front of me like a lifeline. Somewhere past the third exit, I realized she had no idea who I really was, and maybe I didn't either. But I was about to find out. Without her, by the time I crossed state lines, something inside me began to settle. I wasn't healed. I wasn't even okay. but I could finally breathe without second-guessing every inhale. I stayed at a cheap roadside motel near a forgotten lake town, the kind of place where no one asks your name and the Wi-Fi never works. I watched the water. I wrote down things I hadn't said in years. Not to her, to myself. I made lists. Things I liked. Things I missed. Things I tolerated that I never should have. It was the first time in over a decade I wasn't orbiting someone else's gravity. But silence never lasts when you're connected to someone who thrives on chaos. I hadn't posted anything, hadn't checked in anywhere, but 2 days into my escape, she found me. I don't know how. Maybe she tracked my card activity or guessed based on places we talked about but never visited. Regardless, I opened my motel door one morning and found her standing there. No makeup, hair messy, and for the first time in years, she looked small. She didn't say hi. She didn't cry. She just stared at me like I was a stranger who stole something from her. And then she said it. I didn't think you'd actually stay gone this long. Not, I'm sorry. Not, I miss you. Just, you're not supposed to do this. That's when I realized. I hadn't broken her heart. I'd broken her control. She followed me inside without asking. I didn't stop her. I wanted to see what she came for. She looked around the room like it insulted her. This is where you're living now? I shrugged. Beats sleeping next to someone who thinks I'm a burden. She scoffed. That's not what I said. It's exactly what you said. Maybe not in those words, but every sigh, every eye roll, every night you rolled away from me. It was louder than anything you could have spoken. She didn't deny it. She just sat on the edge of the bed and asked, "So what now? Are we getting divorced?" I didn't have an answer. Not yet. I just knew I couldn't go back. I told her that. She bit her lip, then said something that truly caught me off guard. I didn't cheat on you. I blinked. You didn't. No. Not physically. I wanted to. I came close. But I didn't. I thought about it a lot. With Marcos. But I didn't go through with it. Does that make it better? I sat down across from her. No. Not really. Because in your head, you left me months ago. Your body just hadn't caught up yet. She looked like she wanted to argue. But she didn't. She just sat there, quiet finally. And then, for the first time, she asked, "Did I really make you feel that small?" "Yes," I said. "Every day." She nodded slowly, then whispered, "I don't know how to fix that." I stood up. "Maybe you're not supposed to." She left without saying goodbye. And I stood in that motel room, unsure if I felt relief, grief, or nothing at all. But one thing was certain, the spell was broken. The version of her I clung to didn't exist anymore. And maybe never had. I thought that motel goodbye was the last time I'd see her. I thought she'd leave me in peace now that she'd said her piece. But if I've learned anything from Lacey, it's that silence isn't her way of coping. It's her way of plotting. For the next few days, I let myself believe I was finally free. I read books I'd put off for years. I took long walks by the lake. I even started sketching again, something I hadn't done since she told me it was a pointless hobby. The more I focused on myself, the more the fog lifted. And then came the letter. Not an email, not a text. An actual envelope, slid under the motel room door like a horror movie scene. No return address. Just my name in her handwriting, messy and rushed. My stomach turned as I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Typed. No greeting, no closing. Just one short paragraph. "Since you've chosen to walk away from our marriage with no closure, I'll be pursuing the house and remaining assets. You left. You abandoned the partnership. I've consulted with legal counsel." That's it. No emotion. No remorse. Just pure retaliation wrapped in formal language. She wasn't trying to win me back anymore. She was trying to win the breakup. I sat there, stunned, rereading the words like maybe I missed a hidden message. I hadn't. It was exactly what it looked like, a calculated strike. And it worked. It hurt. Not because of the money, not because of the house, but because I had finally taken a stand, finally chosen myself, and her response was to gut me financially. I called Jonah, told him everything. He listened without interrupting, then asked, "Do you want to fight her?" I didn't answer right away. I hated conflict. That's why she always won. But then I remembered every time I swallowed my words, every time I let her steamroll me in the name of peace. I remembered the savings she secretly moved, the people she manipulated, the years she made me feel like my kindness was weakness. Yes, I finally said. Not for revenge. For dignity. With Jonah's help, I found a lawyer. I filed paperwork to freeze our joint accounts, protect my share of the assets, and put a legal wall between her and whatever story she was spinning next. It wasn't easy. It wasn't cheap. But it was necessary. And as the documents went through, something in me changed. I stopped hoping she'd wake up one day and see my worth. I stopped fantasizing about closure or apologies. I stopped needing her to validate my pain. Because for the first time, I believed myself. I believed that what she did was real, that what I felt was valid, and that leaving wasn't cowardice, it was survival. And then, just when I thought I'd weathered the last storm, I got a message from someone I never expected, and what they told me made my blood run cold. The message came from Marcos. Yes, that Marcos. The man she almost cheated with. The man whose name lit the fuse that blew everything apart. His message was short. Too short, honestly, considering how much destruction his name had caused. It simply said, "She told me you left. I had no idea she was married. I'm sorry. Thought you should know." I stared at that message for a long time. At first, I didn't believe it. I thought maybe it was a trap, some twisted manipulation attempt she'd orchestrated. But then he followed up with screenshots, conversations, dates, timestamps, evidence. He wasn't lying. He really didn't know. He'd met her through a wellness retreat she attended during one of her work trips. She'd introduced herself as single, told him her ex was emotionally unstable, and couldn't handle a strong woman. That's how she had painted me to the world. A fragile joke. The background character in my own life. But instead of feeling humiliated, I felt calm. Weirdly calm. Because now I understood the full picture. And it was no longer blurry. She hadn't just failed me. She had never seen me. Not as a partner. Not as a man. Not even as a person. Just a placeholder. I didn't respond to Marcos. I didn't need anything from him. I had all the closure I needed. The divorce went through quietly 2 months later. She didn't fight. I think she knew there was nothing left to salvage. Not legally, not emotionally. I got what I was entitled to. More importantly, I got my identity back. I moved out of state shortly after. New job, new apartment, new version of myself, one that I'm still getting to know. I started drawing again, not for validation, not for praise, but because it feels like breathing. I even signed up for a local art show. It's not much, but it's mine. And as for love, I'm not rushing it. I've learned to enjoy being alone without feeling lonely. That might be the most powerful thing I've discovered. Peace isn't something someone else hands you. It's something you fight for. And finally, after years of being invisible, I feel seen. By me. So if you're watching this and you've ever been made to feel small, to doubt yourself, to stay quiet just to keep the peace, please tell me in the comments what your breaking point was. When did you finally say, enough? Because sometimes walking away isn't weakness. It's the bravest thing you'll ever do. This has been Reddit Confessions. Thanks for listening. And remember, sometimes the best revenge is rediscovering your worth.